due to go tomorrow.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first Policy and Resources Committee meeting for Horsham Town Council. So just a couple of housekeeping announcements first. Please note the location of the fire exits in the room, and if there is a fire, please leave by the nearest exit and we assemble in the car park. Please make sure your mobile phones or any other devices as well are to silent or switched off. And please note that this meeting is live streamed and being recorded as well. Thank you. So the first item on the agenda is to elect a chair for the committee. Are there any nominations, please, for chair? Councillor Olsen.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Graham Walker.
Thank you. Is somebody prepared to second that proposal? Thank you, Councillor Gasoline. Are there any other nominations? No. In that case, if everyone would like to vote.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. First item on the agenda, second item on the agenda, apologies for absence received, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so Councillor Skip has a travel commitment and Councillor Grant has a travel commitment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest this evening?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. None.
None. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a couple of young members of the flock, of the town flock. Would you like to say anything this evening? Did you come wanting to
Observe.
Ask us any questions or express any views? Okay.
Nice to see you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I hope you find this evening interesting. Thank you. Okay. So, on to item 5. Which is an overview of the terms of reference and for us to consider the key priorities for the year. Can I hand over to you, please?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, the terms of reference were adopted by full council, so it's just really to refresh everybody's memory and to understand that the committee's role, this one, is about strategic development, policy creation, and that's not human resources policies, major projects when full council have approved and the budget permits, and community consultation and partnerships. So I'd like to just really sort of start conversations within the committee and start thinking about key priorities for the rest of the year and obviously next year as well. Hopefully one of the key priorities will be to develop the draft council strategic or forward plan that will span hopefully 4 to 5 years. Ensure that services and policies align, and that's the foundation for the council to be able to expand when budget and resources permit. Hopefully identify 2 to 5 flagship projects for next year. I've just used some examples of things that have been mentioned to me since I've been here. Adopt a communication engagement strategy, and that was looked at by the Shadow Council before this council was formed, because this will develop a formal engagement framework. Hopefully using surveys, events and online engagement as well to consult with the community. Explore partnership development and strengthen relationships with neighbouring authorities and local groups. Explore shared delivery where that can be happening and hopefully we encourage, and any funding opportunities as well. Long-term asset and service planning to include the strategy for buildings and land with future service needs considered, and to identify services that could potentially transfer down from other authorities, and explore funding bids and external opportunities for income streams. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Would anyone like to comment on any of that, or would like to add anything to that list? Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, thank you. First, thank you for helping sort of guide the initial conversation and putting those down. I believe we have previously discussed that, of course, anything on the agenda as listed is our suggestions.
Yes.
So we're not necessarily adopting
No.
those tonight, just to be clear for everyone else. I think, were you going to run through the post timeline as well, or the report, or was that for noting, or should we do that now?
I can do, yeah. Do you think it'd be helpful?
I think it might be good, because I think just so that everyone in the room
Yep.
tonight is not thinking that we need to decide any of this.
No,
evening.
no, that's it.
So obviously in the report there's a proposed timeline on page 3,
Yes, yes.
which I think is rather helpful for us to just be clear that we have time for this task.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So what document should we be looking at, John?
Um,
Green Framework for?
So this is the development of the Horsham Town Council Strategic Forward Plan Attachment 2.
Attachment 2.
Yeah, so as Councillor Olsen suggests, that there is a proposed approach that I have in that report. So this should be developed, the strategic plan, through a staged and proportionate process. The baseline review, months 1 and 2. So this is the review of existing services, assets and projects, and looking at current policies and commitments, and mapping against the neighbourhood plan objectives. Because I think it's really helpful that that neighbourhood plan is made, because that obviously there was lots of work went into that, and it makes sense for this town council to consider that as well, those objectives. Member engagement months 2 and 3, and this is workshops with members to consider priorities, develop a shared vision and identify key strategic themes. Stage 3 would be the community and stakeholder input. So this is where there'd be some targeted engagement, maybe a short survey, stakeholder discussions and face-to-face opportunities as well, which are really important for anybody that's not digital or online. And then building on the evidence already gathered through the neighbourhood plan. The stage 4 is the draft plan preparation, that's month 4 to 5. And this is including vision, themes, priorities and key projects. And then stage 5 is the review and approval. So the consideration by the Policy and Resources Committee, and then hopefully recommendation to full council for adoption.
Thank you, Cook. So the idea, I believe, is that this sort of timeline fits with the physical timeline.
Yes.
So that then when we're deciding strategies and projects,
Yeah.
Those two processes are running in tandem.
Yeah.
So that's clear to me. And I think the other thing I just wanted to check, we talk about member workshops, because obviously we can have discussions in the committee meetings, but we are talking that the expectations this group might meet outside
Yes.
the council meetings.
Yes.
That we can talk this through.
Yes.
The group. Okay.
Yeah.
Councillor Fletcher.
Just to ask, obviously, funding per se is a finance function,
Yes.
but when we're looking at these projects, one of the bits of spade work to do is to understand things like SIL funding, Section 106 funding that may be
Yes.
available, and what the timescales for that
Yes.
are going to be. Does it need to actually refer to that sort of scoping of potential funding pots and timescales in your timeline document?
So at the moment, I've reached out to the district council to understand the process of how we might be able to access, because Councillor Boffey rightly said there's a legacy pot as well.
Yeah.
So I want to have an understanding of what the mechanism might be to trigger access to that, and how the town council can get their ideas and projects and things forward to the district council to be considered. So I don't have that information at the moment. But as soon as I do have, that obviously will be all feeding into, because you need it for budget setting, you need it, for looking at the precept demand and things like
I
that.
just think it's useful for this
Absolutely.
committee to have a sort of timeline of what we know about which pots are where
Yes.
and when
Yes.
as well, because that will
Yeah.
adjust our priorities.
Absolutely. So yes, as soon as I have that information, obviously I will update members.
But I think whatever the uncertainty as to the actual amounts of money available to us, if we can proceed with identifying projects and we can work them up to a stage where we've identified what they would cost, as well as their other outputs and benefits, then we can bring the two together. And if we don't know about all of the money at the same time, then we can set projects in reserve pending available finance.
Yes,
Would that be the
absolutely.
approach?
Absolutely. And that's where your strategic plan will come into the fore, because like you say, you may not have a sum of money this financial year, but it might be that next year, that there's some Section 106 money or something that's, so that can all be factored in there.
Okay, thank you.
I think Councillor Ellen Gosling.
Just a question on the purpose of the strategic plan. Will it then inform what are the assets that we would then identify as potential for transfer from HDC, for example? Yeah.
Yes, that should be a project as well, because the conversation needs to be commenced with the district council in earnest for things. If we want to talk about, are there going to be legal fees, for instance, that the town council has to meet and things like that. So there needs to be an understanding, and obviously the resources you have at the moment as well. It's limited capacity.
Yeah.
So so all those things will be factored in. But as Councillor Morton Cook said, it's a good idea if people have ideas and projects and initiatives, put it all forward, because it might be that something can happen in 2 years' time. But it's all good to plan for, because obviously the more time you have to plan, the better.
Councillor Buffy.
Thanks, Chair. So, because of where we are in the life of this authority, I sort of think that we're not in what usual times would look like. Because when I think about, an authority that's the next tier up, it's, to a certain extent, you have the business as usual stuff that you have to do, largely which is statutory in nature, plus some other non-statutory functions or services that have been going for so long that that's just what people expect, and that is the business as usual. So when we come to do like a council plan or an annual plan or something, you're kind of largely looking at the initiatives of things you want to do that are over and above that. Now, it might be a service you want to develop that you're going to carry on doing, or it might be a one-off project that you actually want to do that's quite time-bound. I think in that context, there's not an awful lot of things that we have to do as a town council, but there's an awful lot of things that we could do. But because we're brand new and haven't really established everything, it's kind of like everything's a project almost, but some of them will be things that like, for example, we want to have an arts festival event, and it might just be something we want to do 1 year, or it might be something we want to develop and then it takes on a life of its own or whatever. But if I think about, it's tricky because we're in a context of the district council where there was the special expenses budget, and some of that stuff was just money that disappeared into the district council to contribute towards stuff that the district council was doing anyway, like contributions to park maintenance or what have you. And then there's other things that it did directly fund. So examples of that would be the budget that went towards the youth provision for youth work in town, or towards the wardens that were operating. So I sort of think there's a piece of work, even though we're at early stages, there's a piece of work around kind of like what are the sort of basic level functions that people would expect to carry on that I'm probably not going to carry on unless we decide we're going to put them in our budget and continue funding them,
Yeah.
with wardens and youth work being key examples. I think there's other things where sometimes you want to look at community assets and say, well, we've got to keep this or we've got to keep doing that. Or you might want to look at stuff and say, well, what do we want to do as a council and what assets or facilities do we need in order to deliver that? And that's the angle at which you come at it from. And then there might be things that haven't been done before that we want to do, and it's kind of a straight funding question whether we want to do it. So something I'm quite interested in having is a grant scheme. Now, obviously, to pay those grants, they actually have to be in the precept. But then we would need a policy for then deciding, well, how do we want people to apply for those, and what sort of things are we going to want to support?
Yeah.
So may I? Councillor
I
Taylor.
was just going to follow on really from what Councillor Boffin's saying, that given the time frame that we're actually in and the need to get things done in the next 2 years, where we're wearing our hats, some of us are wearing our hats.
Yes.
I would want to see us make a priority, particularly of the assets issue, because we can't sit on our hands with that, because we've only got less than 2 years now until April 28. So as an absolute priority for this council, I believe, and to our residents, is to get that up and running and established very, very early on, to see what is possible, what is practical, what is affordable amongst the assets that we know that currently the next level up own.
Yes.
Capitol, Museum, Bandstand, da. And in the normal way of things, that might not happen for quite a while, but we can't sit around and.
No.
So I haven't been involved, obviously, in this strategy development, because I was not part of the shadow bit. It all seems to make perfect sense to me, but I would just like to bring that out from within it to be front and centre.
Thank you. Jill, I believe you've referred in the documents attached for tonight to an asset register, or is it just purely a policy register?
Policy register. That's right. Policy register. Yes, I've got that.
Are we collectively saying that we would like the district council, we'd like to request of the district council that we would like them to create an asset register of assets that they own in the town? Can I build on that suggestion by also looking at the services that various teams provide to the town, which have a revenue cost, have an ongoing cost? They may be just part of that person's job role. It may not be their whole role, because it's a district council and they operate across the district, of course. But I think it would be really important for us to understand not just the physical assets that need to be transferred, but also what element of the council's officers' work is provided specifically to Horsham Town Centre, and by implication, and I don't wish to lead people anything by saying it, could be at risk with the transference to a unitary authority. Does that meet with councillor's approval?
And sorry, just to finish on that, I agree with that point, and I can tell you as a fact that now exists, that register, because I've spent 2 years trying to make it happen, and there's been an issue around it never being in one place.
Yeah.
Somebody over here knows a bit about that, somebody else over here. That now, I believe, although I still haven't seen a hard reading electronic copy, is that there is now, if requested, a much more certain asset base for pensions.
Councillor Buffy?
I'm going to say,
sorry.
I do have a copy of a big asset register, so I can certainly share that and bring that to the next meeting. Well, I'll share it with you all anyway.
Yeah, I think possibly circulate it to
Yeah, I'll circulate it to everybody.
Members.
Yeah.
It does exist, but I think Jonathan's right that the physical asset register list exists, but the service side of things is far more nebulous. Some items are quite specific and identifiable, and some of them are quite historic and, dare I say it, slightly arbitrary, which is not criticism of the district council. It's all a question of scale and degree, really, from the district council's perspective. It hasn't just far been worth going to something to the nth degree, but obviously because it's our whole world, it's going to be quite important to us.
Councillor Alton.
Sorry, I think I conflated the agenda, and I just want to apologise for a second. So just to be clear, I think we've merged agenda items 5 and 6 slightly. But
Yes.
so that just to, for my understanding, Jill,
Yes.
sorry, Clark, what you're asking from us now
Yes.
is you did want us to sort of agree those lists of this is my fault because I jumped into the first bullet, which had a nested agenda item. So you do want us to sort of agree these sort of bulleted priorities, one of which is to develop the council strategic plan.
Yes.
Right. And then I'm just thinking again to Jonathan's point, or Councillor Taylor's point, as well as the 7th or 8th thing, bullet does talk about long-term asset and service planning. So the request, we have the asset list, but the request of the service list sort of fits in that priority
Yes.
to me. So that one is definitely one to stay.
Yeah.
As well as the next bullet, which says identify services that would transfer down based on reviewing the services that we get. So I guess it's a question of now we need to just go through the bullets, see if we're happy with those priorities.
Yes.
But
Yes,
we don't
please.
necessarily have to delve further into
No,
those
no, no.
at the moment.
No,
Okay.
no, because it's a piece of work on its own, and yeah.
So if we go back to item 5, where we, as Councillor Olsen does point out, we need a formal decision to adopt a proposal from Jill. Can I have a proposer for item 5? Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you.
And a seconder, please.
Sorry, who was that?
Thank you.
Councillor Rodriguez. Yeah,
Councillor.
thank you.
Thank you.
And sorry, is everyone in agreement?
Is everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
So, item 6. Any more discussion around that before we?
Couple of points. I also thought it was a very well thought through document, and agreed with everything and the approach as it is laid out in here. And this is probably, the intention is probably that it's captured in some of the points, but I just wanted to make sure we talk about reviewing the providing clarity of direction to the council and prioritisation of projects, etc. Is there also an opportunity for us to think about the purpose of the town council? Because I know we
Absolutely.
talk about vision, but actually
Absolutely.
what the purpose
Very good.
is.
Absolutely.
Then we can talk about the vision.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure that that's
Yeah, absolutely.
captured. I also was wondering how we get buy-in, because in the stages, so we have input from community stakeholders, etc.
Yes.
And then we have plan preparation, and then we go to consideration
Mhm.
and adoption. Is there an opportunity to go back? So how do we ensure we have buy-in from our community?
Yes, so that's where the engagement part of it is really critical, to
Yeah.
make sure that we encourage as many people to be involved in the process.
Yeah,
It's always a challenge,
yeah,
but making sure, and I'm sure with all the councillors' contacts as well, reaching out to the community groups that you all, probably meet or see on a monthly basis, people that are on the fringe maybe that,
Yeah.
but that's the challenge really for all of us, to make sure that we promote the opportunity and engage with as many different groups,
Yeah.
community organisations as possible, including people that came to the annual town meeting. We've got a good start there. And the thing about Horsham is it's so rich for groups here. It's unbelievable. So if every council knows 2 or 3,
yes.
yeah.
But that's to get the input.
Yes.
Once we have the plan and we're
Yes.
happy with it, how do we then make sure we have a communication of the plan, buy-in in the plan. So it's the next stage.
Yes.
of Actually, how do we present this back and make sure that everyone, or as many people as possible, buy into it?
Yeah, that should include a face-to-face opportunity to anybody that's not online, but also using our website,
Yeah,
Facebook.
so it's more communication, yes.
Absolutely.
Just the aspect I hadn't quite, I don't think or maybe we need to just make it more explicit in this.
Yeah.
Ongoing communication and
absolutely.
engagement. I'm going to make one final point. I'm sure also this is the plan, but to have very clear objectives and KPIs. So once we've set the vision,
Yes,
we've decided what we want to achieve, how do we know, and how do we check
Achieved
in
it.
that we've
exactly.
achieved it,
That's critical as well.
on an ongoing basis.
Yeah.
Because I guess we'll have to iterate the plan, right? Because if the objective is X, Y, Z, and we're not quite achieving that, A, how do we measure, and B, how do we then iterate on the
Yeah.
plan?
Exactly, and it's important as well, is because I think what town councils and parish councils are really usually poor is promoting and celebrating
Yes,
things that, because you're so busy, everybody, you move on to the next project.
yes.
But it's really critical, you're right, to make sure you celebrate achievements and make sure they're communicated out.
And they're achieving the objective that sits behind the project, right? Because
Yeah.
projects are fine, right?
Yeah.
With them and move on.
Yeah.
But actually, they are a way of delivering on a specific objective. So how do we
Yeah.
measure that on an ongoing basis?
I would be proposing that the communications of each project is built into the project plan.
Yeah.
Right from the start, including the review period.
Yeah.
That's built in which helps us to achieve the objectives that you're proposing we should have.
Yeah.
Councillor
KPIs.
Robson,
Well, I think you've raised a really good point, and I'm just trying to, and I don't think you necessarily use the word, but I will use the word consultation, because if I can relate this to the step up to the next local authority level, when we developed the annual plan, at least last year, there was a period of 4 weeks of public consultation, that this is the plan, what's your feedback on that?
Yeah.
So that is not necessarily built into the timeline here.
No, but you can do.
Yeah, because I'm one, and I don't know the answer. I'd like to hear everyone's opinion, because I think if you do effective stakeholder engagement, we feel like we've listened, but then we are effectively here to make decisions.
Yeah.
And if we get enough input to make the decisions, this is how we've had to make it work. Do you need to go back out to consultation? There's a question there whether we do or not. But if that is what you're asking for, I would say it's not actually in the timeline as it's written to put a package, a finished draft in, and then say, what do you think about this? So I just want to make that clear. And the only other thing I just have a question again is just, or thing I'd like to just highlight. Obviously, we in our last meeting did make some proposals, or in our last full council meeting, proposals with that. This council itself might be changing.
Mm-hmm.
I just want this on the record in that, but I do feel that we have to move forward anyways
Yes.
with this,
Yes.
even if it does change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think we also have built some flexibility in that we might want to evaluate things if some decisions are made along the way in this
Yes,
process.
absolutely.
So I think, depending on, I'm not wanting to be too time bound by the timeline that I'm not looking at anyway, but if it were possible, I do think, especially at the outset, kind of a two-stage engagement is an option in terms of if you want to go out to the public and to the community at the outset, you can do so in quite an open way. In terms, basically, I find a longer way of saying, what would you like us to do? You could refine it a lot more like that than you want, but just kind of like, we've got some ideas of what we might want to do, but we want to hear from you what your ideas are as well. So then you've kind of started on the journey, trying to take people with you right from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Then you take some of that stuff and you put some of the things that we want to do as well, we think are necessary, and then you create a plan. And then you have your 4-week consultation on that plan, and see what comes back, see whether you need to make any changes in view of the consultation responses that you've got before you then adopt it.
And just building on what you said, Councillor Buffy and Olson, I actually purposely didn't use the word consultation because I very much agree with you. You get people's input within the deciding body. But the question is more how we get buy-in and engagement. So how do we make the community feel like this is the plan they've had an input in and that it's a shared plan?
Mhm.
And this is probably a conversation for, a later date, but it's more how do we then, and there may be, depending on the types of projects that we propose, an opportunity to get the community to have say in how those projects are delivered. So likely the strategy will be saying what we're delivering, but actually there might be opportunities for further engagement on how, who, etc. So it's more, I completely agree with you. I think it's more about how do we make it feel like it's owned by the community, not just this body.
I think we've already referred to a number of stakeholders that we're already engaged with through the initial meeting. And we could build a list of consultative bodies that we would consult with naturally, who have a stake, we know have a clear stake and represent certain aspects of the community, which in addition to any open consultation, we could regularise that we've effectively got a consultative group of stakeholders that we could run proposals through. And to be honest, I think given our own limited resources, the delivery of many of the objectives and projects that we would want to achieve will only be possible in partnership with many of those stakeholders. So their engagement and binding them in and helping them to achieve their objectives mutually would be a key objective in my opinion. Councillor Fletcher.
Yes, what I wanted to say is there's consultation on specific ideas towards the plan, but there is also just finding out the various groups that are there and what is on their minds at the moment. And I think the first meeting when we had the introduction from some stakeholders was really helpful. And I'd like to suggest that we try to get a rolling programme of inviting local voluntary and community groups along to give a very short, hello, this is where we're at, this is things that are worrying us or that we are trying to achieve at our meetings so that we can all hear that.
Yes.
And to open up the possibility that then outside the meetings we can actually go and have further discussions with them about those things. So I think that would be really useful. I think that one area to start looking really quickly would be the allotment associations, because they are definitely in our remit already.
Yes.
Yes, we don't need to negotiate with the district council with regard to that. That's one of our key responsibilities anyway, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Yes, I think that's a very good thing. Councillor Taylor.
I recall maybe it was at that first big meeting that Ruth referred to, which I agree with her, it was excellent. Maybe you wouldn't have that many each time because it was, 2 hours or whatever. But did we not say at the time that we would already introduce that thought at each of it wouldn't necessarily be the annual meeting, but at each full council, we could have 2 or 3 coming in? Did I dream that, or was it actually talked about?
Yes, so I've got 2 coming for the next July meeting. So yes, I've got sort of a list I'm working through.
Yeah.
We had the Ross Spanton, Community Warden, came in the last meeting. So yes, so there will be somebody invited along, and obviously I'm talking to the chair, Councillor Frank, to agree who's coming to each meeting.
Course of, how many do we have in the year?
I've got 2 people coming in July.
How many full? 6.
Sorry.
So that would be 12 or 15 through the year that we would have heard from.
Yeah.
So is it, you've talked to Councillor Frank as the chair about who's on that list, but how about if we were to send round a an email for people, for the council
Yes.
to crowdsource which groups they're aware of that they think should be considered.
Thank
Yes.
you.
To build a central list,
Yeah.
which would be held by,
It would.
by the
Yeah.
clerk. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Feeds in actually to what Horsham Matters Chief Exec Kelvin Glenn
Yeah.
mentioned about a stakeholder mapping exercise,
Yeah.
which would kind of feed into that.
Effectively, it will be that, won't it?
Yeah.
Then, Councillor Smith.
Another question that came to my head, and I don't know the answer. Do we have, or have we established any mechanism for regularly engaging with all of our residents, either through, obviously there's the website, we can post stuff out, but how do we, through, I don't know, sort of town council newsletter, old fashioned, actually paper, too expensive to get it out there, but to your point, how do we, is there anything that's being discussed, or is basically saying it's going to be online and we have to direct people to that? And then the question comes, what about all those people who don't have computers, aren't internet savvy? So I just don't know what that's been discussed.
Sorry.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes, sorry.
So there is an element of money, funds in this year's budget. I think it was £800 from memory, for community engagement. That could be a newsletter, but I don't think it would actually meet the cost of a paper version. But what we could do is contribute to one of the other existing magazines, because I know that I think it's North Horsham Parish Council do that at the moment. So that might be something we can consider. I haven't had capacity this month, but in July I did intend to email everybody to seek suggestions on, because if it is contributing to a magazine, it will only be maybe a page that we'll have. So it's really a key message or messages that we want to share for the first. I mean, we have been in the press for
In the magazine.
exactly I've forgotten. Sorry, Councillor Olsen. What's the?
All that Horsham.
Thank you. So we are getting ourselves out there, but you're right, and it is a capacity thing at the moment for me. It's just trying to, because I'm updating Facebook as well and the website. So yeah, but hopefully
Councillor
that
Buffy
will
first,
improve.
then Councillor Fletcher.
Just on that, I seem to remember from something the Horsham Society said at one of their meetings recently. Obviously, they have about 1,000 members or something. It's one of the biggest in the South East. And they have a monthly newsletter that they put out to their members. But I think at least on one occasion, and possibly periodically, they go wider than that in order to try and get more people in. Now, a way that could potentially do that is if essentially we were to able to put some content into their newsletter and contribute the £800. That would cover the cost to them of going wider than they normally go. And
Yes,
between us, we could achieve the whole thing.
that's a really good idea. Thank you.
Horsham Society.
Oh, yeah.
Councillor Fletcher.
So
Thank
I'll
you.
come back to you one in a minute, but I was going to say that although not that many people read the local paper at the moment, it seems perfectly feasible if we were to want to write a regular column for the local paper, that they would be able to host a regular column, because all sorts of people have one now.
Yeah.
So that's a cheap way of doing it.
Mhm.
It can then be something that can be spread around via Facebook and other things. In terms of the Horsham Society, so I'm a member of the Horsham Society and I happen to be one of their distributors. One of the reasons the Horsham Society can distribute their newsletters cheaply is they have a network of distributors
Yes.
who go to individual members. They're not set up to distribute to every household.
No.
So when we're thinking about how we do that, it's not just a case of saying, well, we'll give you some money and you can distribute it.
Yeah.
It would be, it might be that you could put an insert in perhaps that went to all their members without
Yes.
trouble.
Yeah.
And it might be that you could get a whole load of, you could potentially, if they were interested, get, joined together on the printing. But we wouldn't be looking at using their other method of delivery, which is postage, because that would be
Too expensive.
eye-wateringly expensive.
Mm.
So if you want to have universal coverage, I think you're looking again at doing something like the neighbourhood forums, councils did, which is to employ a local deliverer to just go around and go through each level.
Yeah.
Councillor Olsen was next, and then Councillor Buffy.
I've got 2 points that are different, so there's kind of copies on that point.
Partly on that, and then
Okay.
one other thing, which is very brief. But I was saying that they may be able to still share the burden of a one-off, even if it's through paid delivery, if they think it's an opportunity for them to also boost membership, because I think that's partly why they did a wider distribution before, and whether they used raw mail or whether they used paid delivery, I don't entirely know. I still think it's worth a conversation with them.
Yeah.
The other point I just wanted to touch on regarding the kind of 2 stages of engagement, one option that's available to us, rather than just going out with a blanket, what do you want? It could be, if we think that there's 4 or 5 high-level themes that we think are important for what the council to do, that could provide a little bit more of a steer as to what we're wanting to engage people with, in terms of like, this is what we think is important. What do you think of that? Have you got any others? And what specific ideas might you have that fit under all of these things? And then later on come back with a...
So because I believe that we're approving sort of some of the stuff in the report that you can, I wanted to potentially propose some very specific changes or additions.
Mhm.
So under stage 1, baseline review of months 1 to 2 under your proposed approach, could we add a 3rd bullet, so that's page 2? Under mapping against neighbourhood plan objectives, could we add the stakeholder mapping exercise into baseline review? So that then leads us into the stakeholder engagement, which is stage 3. So I would just put that into the stage 1 in your approach, is the stakeholder mapping exercise there, just so that it's listed as a specific action. And then back to to be slightly pedantic, and I know it's subject to change, but I'm just looking at the meeting schedule of this committee.
Mhm.
So we have meetings currently on the 1st of December, and then not again until February.
Yes.
The full council meets every month in that
Yes.
period. Not
Every other month.
it does meet in
Oh, no, we've
December.
got monthlies.
Sorry.
Yeah, monthly full council.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This-
Isn't one in December because of the
This committee was every 2 months.
Yes.
But I think that's just really looking at putting dates in calendars. But realistically, I think this committee is going to have to meet more than every 2 months, because there's going to be an awful lot of work to get through for the first year.
Okay.
It just depends on really the workload and, how members feel. Obviously, the meeting schedule is going to be reviewed as well.
Yeah.
So that will be really key as well, people that are on committees to feed in to say, actually, every 2 months is not sufficient. We need to, build in more capacity here, and we therefore think we should meet monthly. So that's the sort of thing as well, if hopefully members can have a think about that.
Because I guess what I was looking for is just around this publicising bit of the draft, the first draft.
Yes.
If that was sort of a draft was approved at one of the meetings, and I wasn't sure if the December meeting was too late, because so we can adjust that. But I think if we just get around this we know when there are 2 meetings, we publish a draft, and in between that and the next meeting of this committee, we listen to some public response.
Yes.
Whether it's formal consultation or not, it will be out there because we will have published a draft in the agenda.
Yeah.
But rather than publish a draft to approve,
Yes.
we're sort of approving a draft to be published, if that makes sense.
It does.
In the agenda.
It does.
And then the following committee meeting, we would then approve the recommendations to full council, and the full council adopts it.
Yeah.
So that's sort of what I'm suggesting we do.
Of course, you can have an extraordinary committee meeting as well. So that can be, brought in if members want to. So that's.
Okay. But I think it was just because when you go from stage 4 to stage 5, it's sort of draft,
Mm.
and then there's consider by committee. So I think we just need like an extra.
Yes.
It's like a draft, published draft,
Yes.
review
Yeah.
by the committee. So just an extra step in there.
Yeah,
I don't
that
think
makes
we-
Do we need a formal amendment to say that?
I can just make a note of that. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
I'd move that we adopt it on that basis. Can I just come back, Councillor Boffey's point? Based on my experience, I would prefer for us to go out with a number of items, because I think managing people's expectations is going to be really important as well. We're also saying, and we admit, certainly in this first year, we've got very limited resources. And I think, what we don't want to do is disappoint people. The phrase is managing expectations. And we want to make sure that we deliver on our promises. So I think we obviously need to go out and we need to invite people to contribute, but we also need to inform people, our population here, as to what is potentially achievable. And as we are able to take on more, communicate that as well. So I would be proposing that. There's one other thing I wish to add, Jill. I believe all councillors have had a copy circulated of the recent town centre research report that the district council had prepared. There was some very useful feedback and indications, not all of it economic in nature, which was the primary purpose of that study. But I wonder whether in some way we could adopt that as a base document in helping us to understand what the priorities are, without us having to go out maybe and undertake a similar piece of research ourselves in the first stage. Would that be?
I think it's a very good idea. Don't want to reinvent the wheel.
I'm not sure that we want to formally adopt their priorities, but I think it's very useful to use it as a guidance document.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wanted to add to the suggestion with the stakeholder mapping that we do alongside that audience mapping. It's slightly different, and I think part of that work is done in this research, in this study. But just understanding who our audiences are, because we can then do channels mapping, which will help inform how we communicate with the audiences and how we get their input, but also inform them on progress.
Would you be referring to the part of that document where it identifies profiles,
Age groups,
and
personas,
interests?
So it's essentially a communication and engagement plan that would sit alongside your stakeholder engagement plan.
My understanding of what you were suggesting, Chair, was that it would be a resource that we should access, not that we should just take it and adopt it.
Yes, and apologies if I indicated that in my language. I have to get used to,
It's
obviously.
a document, and if anyone hasn't read it, the two highlights, absolutely clear cut, is evenings and young people.
Yeah.
And put those together, young people in the evenings. I mean, those, am I right? That's, in a nutshell, that's the findings of that piece. Everything else was what we would expect, very positive generally. Yeah, true. But again, we probably do that, and there are discussions, we know, around trying to get the operator to increase services. That's already happening. But if you haven't read it, do read it. It's good for.
Chair, maybe for language that a lot of us are used to for other purposes, maybe we're talking about an evidence base in a way.
Thank you.
Yes.
So perhaps it's just develop or identify the evidence base in that baseline report, whatever. Again,
Okay, sure.
and that certainly fits that definition to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that actually, I'm sure there are other resources potentially at the district council level or even in the local plan process that would be useful for us on other things. So yeah.
And there's probably, West Sussex documents that I'm not aware of, I've looked for them, that might also embrace our patch. I don't know.
Yeah.
But again, not ignoring it if it's been done. Share it with members.
Okay.
Okay.
Right, thank you. Item 6 then, council strategic and forward plan. Have we discussed that to everyone's satisfaction? Can I have a proposer for that with the identified changes? Councillor Olsen? Councillor Olsen?
Mhm. Second.
Councillor
Sorry, who was?
I don't.
Claridge?
Oh, thank you. Is
Thank you.
everyone in agreement?
And is everyone in agreement?
Yeah.
Agree.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item, item 7, Policy Framework and Review Programme, Attachment 3. Clerk, please.
Thank you. So yes, I did prepare the policy register. As you see, there is a long list of policies. So really what I'm asking this evening is if members have a sort of an opinion on priorities. I mean, things like the social media policy, I think are very crucial. But if there are other policies that you look on the list and you think actually they should be more priority than others, you don't have to tell me this evening. If you wanted to take, because it is quite a lengthy register, I will obviously, I've already drafted some that are ready for the next meeting, because I indicated that on the register as well. But if there were others that members felt should be added, please do let me know, and I won't share more than 6 for each meeting because it's
Thank you very much.
quite
We appreciate that.
quite a hefty piece of work. So that was all it was really. This is to invite you to note the current policy register and to agree priority policies for review and development together with an approach for ongoing policy management.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Buffy.
Just glancing through this again, just to see if it's on there. Obviously, it wasn't produced by this council, but I'm just wondering how the neighbourhood plan sits alongside this, or
Yes, it should be on the list. Thank you, Councillor Buffy.
Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, and I just wanted to clarify in the document, over the third column, the expenses and allowances policy,
Yes.
the draft ready for Policy and Resources Committee, but isn't that going to is that coming back to this committee or is it going straight to full council? I was confused.
I was going to bring it to this committee first and
Okay.
then go to full council.
Okay, so we're not meeting again until September.
No, it could go to full council before this committee, but I just felt it was important as you have delegated authority here to look at policies. And it's not critical that it's adopted before September, because obviously full council as well, I'll be doing a report for councillor allowances in July. So yeah, it's not critical that the policies.
So approving of the allowances sits separate to the policy, or does the
Yes.
policy have to come first?
No, the policy doesn't need
That's what I
to.
was confused about. Okay,
Yeah,
'cause
no,
I thought at last full council it was agreed that it would come to the next full council
Yeah.
meeting, so I wasn't sure how this could come after. But now
Yeah,
I
that's-
understand that
yeah,
they are
that's something
dates.
separate.
My apologies.
Yeah. That's okay.
Thank you. Any more comments?
I think we're happy with it.
Okay, thank you. Proposer, please.
Councillor Gussley,
And a seconder, please. Councillor Taylor.
Taylor.
Thank you. All in favour?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
That concludes our business for tonight, unless anybody has any other business they would like to raise. So the date of the next Policy and Resources Committee meeting is on the 1st of September 2026 and will return to 6:30?
Yes, 6:30 should be
6:30 in the
scheduled. Yeah,
evening.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is the
Thank you very
meeting
much.
closed?
Meeting closed.
Thank you very much. 1823. Right, let's end that stream.
What precision timing, eh?